People have their perceptions of what art is. But I want to break down the barriers that confine art. For the people who don't have a pre-existing knowledge of art, I want to expose them to it from my point of view. Art is purely creative, making what you want to make and making what makes you happy, not working for a system or people's approval. My name is Richard Echols, and I am an artist. The message behind my art is pretty simple. I want to just encourage representation, predominantly with people that I identify with, people of color, people that have suffered in America or in any part of the world based on anything racially charged or by the color of their skin. Biggest reason why I am the way I am today is by all of the influences, whether it's family, people that I've come in contact with, you know, whether it's through school or in passing work. I am a reflection of that. So I want to use my work to highlight different people in the world. So I'm originally from Whitehaven, went to church here, my elementary school was here, stayed by Hillcrest High School. Like, this is the neighborhood that I'm from. When I wanted to get away and escape, I would come to my grandma's house.
That's pork.
Is it already ready?
No, this is, I'm gonna show
You see, it
Oh,
for the meat.
It's like feeding the pot, just keep feeding.
It didn't resonate until I was an adult, was how much art and black art that my grandma was collecting and had on display throughout the whole house. We just sit in the house and just look at the walls. I could just kind of look at the artwork and the visuals and like kind of get lost in the narratives of the artwork that was on display. Little did I know that was informing, you know, how I process and wanted to document and create art myself. My earliest memory of being inspired by a piece of artwork, you know, my grandmother's house, is it was done by Kevin Williams, and it was a piece of a man. He's like extremely strong and very muscular, but he's in chains. But on top of his head and in his head is actual key. That piece just stood out to me so much, and it was so crazy because it was so enlightening as a young kid for me to be able to like process that, like, the key's in his head, and that, you know, that is the key to freedom. You know, freeing your mind. I wanted to make my own reality. So being in this space where, you know, things are so simple, it kind of forced me creatively. I remember being in elementary school and like, you know, we would have like competitions of who could draw better or who could draw this. And then I realized that I had a knack for it. Then I would like draw people to impress people. And so in a lot of ways, it was a hobby that was forming, a love that was forming for me to, you know, capture the things that are around me, the people that are around me, and create it and make it my own. Seeing how people interacted with it, the people that I care about, and my circle of influence, it just encouraged me to keep on going and keep on doing it. And that support, you know, kind of is the DNA that kind of put me in the position where I am today. Asking me how did it feel, you know, knowing that there were people around me, you know, successful in art. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a good grasp and understanding of art until college. The years that I attended the University of Memphis was from 2018 to 2021, and I acquired my MFA in painting, which is a Master's in Fine Arts. There was artists in my previous school, MTSU, that went here, and there was a professor that went here as well, and I was trying to figure out my next steps, and they said, hey, you should go on a tour. You're from Memphis. You should check out the program, and that's kind of how everything came about. I applied, and I was like, why not? So the next 3 years were dedicated to this program. My studio was 210. What would happen is I would leave my keys in the studio. If I went to the restroom, I'm just tired or whatnot. And so what I would do is I go into this room and I would grab a ladder and I would put the ladder right here and I climb up and drop over and fall into the studio to get my key because I was working after hours. And I quickly realized that the police on campus don't have keys to these studios. So I'm sure that there's some type of footage on that camera down here of me kind of shimmying on top, and yeah, it's kind of dangerous. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I didn't expect to get it. I wasn't necessarily the most qualified, so they definitely took a chance on me. What happened between the year between me graduating from MTSU to me going to the University of Memphis, I had no studio, I had limited materials, I had a janky easel, I was in a 3-bedroom apartment with 2 of my friends, and I was working at the UPS store. I guess the good thing about it was once I was accepted, none of that mattered. Like I was here now, so number one, I felt like they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and number two, I was willing to learn everything. So I was this big sponge. I was soaking up everything. I didn't act like I knew anything. There was a lot of responsibility that came with being in this program. Outside of making work, they wanted me to be a student assistant to the professors, and then it also put me in a predicament to actually start doing student teaching. And that was a big transition for me because I wasn't the most outspoken, I wasn't good at speaking to groups of people, but I realized that throughout practice, from being in the program and teaching classes for, my first time, it became a lot easier teaching something that I was passionate about. What I wanted to happen once I graduated was I wanted to be a famous artist and an art professor, a full-time art professor, but it didn't really pan out that way. That was the thought process in 2017. And then by 2020, I just wanted to create a solo exhibition. I wanted to get comfortable in my craft, and I wanted to continue learning and getting better at being a teacher. Kind of came in with looking at things more self-serving, and then realizing that my expectations changed to actually be more of a servant to the public, because as I make work, I just don't make work for myself. I make work for people to consume and respond to it and be affected by it. The name of the merch line that I created while I was in the University of Memphis was Support Living Artists. Dead Ones Don't Need It. I was in the midst of, believe it or not, like transitioning like the way I dress, and I was looking online, I was looking at how people dress and just trying to figure out the latest trends and stuff. And I realized I was just tired of investing money into like clothes and brands that, number one, don't care about me and people that look like me, and walking around looking like everybody else. So I was like, well, what would be my take on clothes? Like, if I would wear something, what would I want it to represent? And I was like, well, in what ways can it represent artists and what I believe in? We got so many people like that we say we admire and we believe in, but we don't invest in them. And it's not always a financial investment. But the creatives and the artists that are around now, they need to know that they're validated. They need to know that they're needed and important. Showing your support, believing in them, that means a lot, because artists are one of the most overlooked, underappreciated people. But we kind of like, we're the tastemakers of the world. Don't wait till someone's gone to like give them their recognition and their support and your love, because they can't benefit from it, in reality. So, when you say support living artists, dead ones don't need it, it's just like a little funny exaggeration that I really like, and I really want people to think about that. Like, give people their flowers while they're still here, not when they're gone, How does it feel to be granted a residency in my hometown? I must say that it felt great. The name of the residency was called Crosstown Arts Residency Program. The residency program was located here in Memphis, Tennessee, I would say here in Midtown. It was supposed to last from February to April, but due to certain circumstances and the nature of my work and the fact that I'm local, they extended my residency program all the way through the summer, so February to July. When I first applied, I did not get accepted. And it hurt a little bit, just because I just felt like I was a shoo-in to get it. I was easy to please. I don't ask for much. I was like, hey, I just want a little small space to work. It don't matter. A year later, I ended up reaching back out and saying that
that they had a spot open. And I was like, yeah, like I do want to be a part of the residency. I created a lot of art. The cool thing about the residency was that I was around so many different disciplines. So it kind of helped influence the work that I worked on. So outside of working on my centralized body of work, which is predominantly painting, I had some opportunity to work on things digitally, graphically, photography, the whole nine. My work is very process-based, so at times I need to take a break to like let a layer dry. So while I'm letting that layer dry, I might bounce and work on another idea, another painting, or might be going through some old photos to see, what I might want to paint. I'm not monolithic, where I'm not identified just by one thing. Being exposed to so many different practices, whether it's we had a comedian, we had a rapper, we had a photographer, a ceramicist. We had so many different practices where it let me know that like I'm not confined by the label or the title as a painter. I just want to be known as an artist and a visual artist. So sometimes I might wake up one day and I might want to do some performance art. I might want to dance, I think the most creative people or the most creative things in his life, it doesn't have boundaries. So I think this residency kind of helped remove some of those barriers and those boundaries that we kind of set on ourselves, or that I set on myself when it came to my practice. So yeah, it kind of set me free in a lot of ways.
I see myself and my art evolving in the coming years to be more vocal, be more controversial. If people respect what I'm doing and they're looking at my work, then I feel like I should have something greater to say. My first stab at the work that I've been making and that I'm known for was through representation and highlighting people that look like me, but now I want to tell stories. Now I want to kind of challenge people's thought process, because sometimes I feel like we are slaves to what we were taught, and I just want to encourage people to make decisions on their own, encourage people to be great, follow their dreams. I want everyone to know that there's some type of artist and creative, and they have value, and I want everyone to take ownership with that. So I want my work to explicitly start to communicate that. When I was touched by that quote that an artist's duty is to reflect the times, it kind of helped centralize what drives my work, what centralize how I look at the world, but it also kind of made me want to think about, well, what does this mean on a larger scale, and how do I want other people to be impacted by that statement?
Should we all do it?
Yeah.